You have a wisdom down deep inside of you that you may not even know how to access. My name is Bo Sanders. Today I want to introduce you to a concept that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite words, and I think that you're going to get a lot out of it. It may seem heady at first, but stick with it because I think it's really going to be something that you can engage and implement. There's a lot of applications and implications. So the word is phronesis. It's an ancient Greek word, and it's in contrast to other types of wisdom. It's an enacted wisdom, or another way of saying that is embodied knowledge. It's the type of knowledge that you have when you have a skill that you have practiced over and over. And in those hours of trial and error, of just repetition, it sinks down into muscle memory. It's actually encoded in the cells of your body. And so an example of that is if you watch a cellist or a violinist, she knows how to hold the bow and where to place her fingers, at what speed and with how much tension to draw the bow across the strings, how much pressure to put on. That's in her body. It's a knowledge I don't have. That's phronesis. Or for somebody who frames houses for a living, they know how hard to swing the hammer and how much of their wrist and elbow and forearm and shoulder to put into it so that they can work all day. There's a knowledge in their body that if you're a newbie or unpracticed, you just don't have, you don't know. If you've ever taught a teenager how to drive, they do not have phronesis. You know, for those of us who are adults, and James K. Smith uses this example, you know, you can have a bad day at work and you're driving home and somehow you just end up in your driveway. You're not even sure how you got there. It's because the register of your brain, it's a lower register that it's operating on. It's not the front thing in your thoughts. Teenagers don't have this. They have to think 10 and 2 and shoulder check and shift and brake and right shoulder check, all this stuff. And God forbid it's a stick, because that's a whole different mechanism, a set of bodily requirements. So phronesis is this kind of a wisdom. It's how maybe new mothers don't have the same wisdom as mothers who know that little tricks about balancing in the hip and the one arm so you can accomplish something with the other arm, or whether it's breastfeeding. There's all sorts of examples, and I just think that this concept is really wonderful, especially as people of faith. One of the things I love about being part of a multi-generational church is that there are saints who know things I haven't experienced and I can't know. They know how long to stay on their knees in prayer. They know when to raise their voice and the volume and the intensity, right? They know when a word of correction or a word of encouragement might be needed. There's a steadfastness, a stick-to-itiveness that's down in their bodies. We might call it soul or spirit or character or integrity. There are different ways we try to address it or account for it. But this word, phronesis, is a really great word because it is in contrast to other Greek forms of knowledge. So techne, from which we get technical, that's a technical kind of knowledge. That's one type of wisdom in ancient Greece. Another is theoria, from which we get theory. There's another type of wisdom called poiesis, and that's a fun word. It means the knowledge that can bring something to completion. So like a plumber working on a house, if there's not water flowing all the way through the pipes and they're all sealed, that job is not done. If you are roofing a house and you don't do the trim along the gutters, the roof is not done. There's a poiesis, the knowledge to bring about something to completion. But phronesis is a fourth type of knowledge or wisdom. It hasn't really translated into English. I know it's a little clumsy of a concept. So there's a fun way that I like to address it. If you remember Donald Rumsfeld during the George W. Bush era in the Iraq War, he introduced the world to this concept he called there's known knowns, things we know. There's known unknowns, things we know that we don't know, and there's unknown unknowns, things we don't know. That's a really interesting concept, but it's incomplete. So then a philosopher, his last name is Zizek, came along and said to round this out, he forgot a category. It's a quadrant, and he didn't finish it. Unknown knowns, things you don't know you know. And this is the category that really gets me excited, because I'm pretty confident that you have a wisdom inside of you, down in the cells of your body, in your bones. We say trust your gut or follow your heart. You have a wisdom inside of you that you may not even know how to access. It's operating at a register lower than whatever's on the front of your thoughts. It's down inside of you. And this is where faith comes in, that you can trust your heart. Because the practice of faith has brought about a character in you, a consistency, an integrity, a steadfastness, that the long practice of faith, week after week, trusting and walking in the practices of faith, they have formed you. They've not just informed your opinions and beliefs and your doctrines, but they have formed you as a person of character, a person of integrity, a person of depth and strength, so that when times get tough, in the ebbs and flows of life, in the full moon and the new moon, in the high tide and the low tide, when fall turns to winter and you're waiting for spring, there is a depth in you that you can trust. Because you have walked in the practices of faith and been formed as a person of faith. You have phronesis. There is a wisdom in you that you may not even know how to access, but you can trust it. It's down in the bones, in the cells of your body. I love this concept. So we're going to call it an unknown known. There are things you know that you don't even know you know. But when times get tough, when life is really challenging, you'll find out that there's a wisdom down inside of you that you can trust. Okay, that's my pastoral word for the day. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you have any other concepts that we want to engage, any questions or comments, applications or implications, let me know. I am really enjoying being back in the conversation.